There are, remember, city, special purpose, county, or state, right? Just think of it. If I didn't have city in it, what would happen? It would have to go into some other primary government, in which case it would be what? State of New Jersey, because it's not a primary government by itself, right? Again, remember, it's important to know what the primary government is, because then you know what the top level reporting entity is. Okay. And what are the two tests? The appointment or control of the board and the financial burden or benefit test. And can you still have to include that in the primary government? Yes, even if there was a financial burden or benefit. Okay, and I gave you the example of Rutgers. Right? So it's not that difficult, but I wanted to tell you this because there is a nice little chart somewhere in the book which goes through, and this is what I'd like you to do on your own. I want you to take a look at this chart on page, actually, you know what, we can take a look at it now. On page 359. Let me just go back and I'll show you. This is the chart, okay? So what they are trying to do is they're trying to figure out if a component unit should be included or not included in the CAFR. Look at the question. Is PCU legally separate? And I'll just take the case of the Meadowlands. Is it separate? Yes, it's separate from the state of New Jersey. Does the PG, in which case PG is what? The state, appoint the voting majority of the board? Yes. Is there a financial benefit or burden test, or is it able to impose the will? Yes. Does the CU meet the criteria for blended presentation? And I'll get, basically what this means is you can show a component unit in its own column, or you can add it to the primary government, and there's no trace. You just added two things together. That's called blending. Why would you do that? You do that only for entities which do business only with primary government. They don't do business with the world outside. It's all internal, and their activities are so intertwined with the primary government that you don't separate them. So there is a way to present their information is either blend it or include it all in one column, or have it separate in discrete columns as a component unit. So this is what it says. And in this case, if it's not, then you show discrete presentation. Does everyone understand the meaning of the word discrete? Yes. This is on page 359. Okay. Let's go back. And what I'm going to do is, just so, because I think it would be a lot easier for you to see this. This is the statement of net assets. Notice the headings: governmental, business type, and what? And what were those component units? The one that we just looked at, right? Now, some states, if you looked at the CAFR, listed the component units separately on this first page. Some do, right? You probably saw some states did list it separately. But here, what did we do? We just combined it. So the next question you might have is, which ones do I show as major component units, and which ones do I show as non-major? Most people tend to use that major fund test to arrive at that, okay? But you can choose to show a component unit as major if you decided to. They have much more leeway. But the same test that we use for major fund is applied for major component units. So what does the state report contain? The state's operation and what? Its component units presented in a discrete manner. Discrete meaning each one has its own column, except if it's non-major, in which case it's all put together. Is everybody with me? Okay. All right, let's go back to the financial reports themselves. So again, you need to know the concept of the financial reporting entity. And as I said to you, it's interesting because when you look at the state of New Jersey, it seems as if it's right out of your textbook, this footnote. The state is financially accountable. It appoints a voting majority. State may be financially if it's fiscally dependent. Same things we just talked about. That's from the footnote number 1 of the state's financial statement. Remember, components units can be either discretely presented or blended. Okay? Any questions so far? All right, now we come back to the financial reports. The next discussion, I'm going to go through this quickly because you know most of this already. What are the major sections of the CAFR? Introductory, financial, statistical. Okay? And you should know those by now, but basically it talks about the need for having this. By the way, I don't know if I ever mentioned this to you, but right now Rutgers is involved with the GASB. We have several PhD students and several faculty. I'm involved in this, in taking the CAFRs of all the states. And what we're actually doing is we're trying to come up with a way through our information systems area to extract data and tag. Does anyone know XBRL, which is the extensible business reporting language, and be able to tag that data and be able to store that data and do that analysis. It's the only one of its kind. There are only 2 universities in the country working on this, and Rutgers has taken the lead with them and with the Governmental Accounting Standards Board. And so I'm telling you, as we look at this, this is real stuff. This is what we are taking a look at, where, in fact, I'm meeting with the PhD students to go over, and some of them, this might be their dissertation on how to extract and manipulate and work with this data. And, because government financial reporting is much further behind that corporate financial reporting is. Corporations are required to do their filings through XBRL if they reach a certain size. Governments don't. It's all in PDF. And can you imagine looking for information in those PDF reports? As you saw, it's not the easiest thing. But this also talks about interim financial reports. The reason I mentioned that to you is if anyone is interested over the summer on working on this, let me know. I know you'll all be out there job hunting, or if you're probably starting off, but this is one of the big projects that we hope to get going. Okay, so these are the sections of the CAFR itself. And